Hi everyone, welcome back to the brewery and welcome to today's video where I'm going to show you how to do a completely closed transfer without oxygenating your beer into your corny keg. So I've got my Pliny the Elder that has just kind of finished up dry hopping after the last, I think it's been 3 days. So I'm looking to move that out of the secondary fermenter into the keg, carbonate, and cold crash. So just wanted to show you how we're going to do that. The first step though is that I want to take a gravity sample and see where we ended up on this beer. It's important to check your final gravity before you carbonate because the carbonation will make the hydrometer float more so and throw off your reading. So we're just going to take a small sample, and I almost forgot. Make sure to pull your airlock before doing so. A little over full, we're going to spill a lot. So this beer started out at 1078. It's a pretty big beer. We'll do this over a bucket. And we have cleaned up to right at 1011. Just one line above 1010. That might continue to settle, but I'm going to go with 1011. Ooh, that is hoppy. But it's good. Alright. And I've got my ABV calculator pulled up here. You can find that just by Googling beer gravity calculator. The one I use is from brewersfriend.com. We'll enter our original gravity of 1078, final gravity 1011, should be somewhere around a 9.5% beer. 8.79, just under 9%. So that's done pretty well. So I will mark that down. Okay, next step is I'm going to go ahead and get a Sani bucket ready so that way we can soak our hoses and disconnects and everything that we'll be using to transfer the beer. So I'll get that ready and see you in just a second. Alright, so I've just got a brew bucket here with about 1.5 gallons of water and I think a 1/2 ounce of Star San. Mix it up pretty strong. And we're just going to dunk all of the components that we'll be using in here. So we need a liquid and a gas disconnect. And I'm just going to grab each of my components and dunk them in the bucket. So we've got a 1/4 inch barb and a flare nut, a 5/16 inch barb and a flare nut, a gas and a beer disconnect, and then I've got a length of about 3 feet of 5/16 hose and a length of closer to 4 feet in 3/16 hose, or 1/4 inch, whichever you have. While those are cleaning up, I also want to soak my lid. For later. And once I pull these out and put them on the drying towel, I'm going to dump my sanitary water in there, shake it up, and use that to sanitize the keg. So we'll just pull each of these out of here and put them on the drying towel. Okay, we've got all the parts just drying here. So now I've just put my funnel in the keg. Don't really need all of it. But we'll put that in, cap it, and take it outside and just shake it around real good to sanitize our keg. And if you really want to go for it, which I've already done, you can put a little gas on it and pump some of that sandy water out to sanitize your pickup tube, but I've already done that. So for now I'm just going to shake it around and dump it outside. Okay, back inside. Okay, so now this next step is maybe a little bit overkill, but some might say this whole process is. We're going to stick our gas on the gas in and fill this keg with CO2 only and purge out the air. Okay, so now, in theory, we should have an empty keg with 0 oxygen inside and strictly CO2. Now's the fun part. We're going to hook up our closed transfer, and I'll just show you quickly how to do it, and then I'll do that off camera. But we're going to run our 5/16 line from our spigot here to the beverage out here with our disconnect, and then we'll run our gas in with our 3/16 line and stick it up inside of the stopper on top of our secondary. So I'll get that hooked up and explain it again here in a second. Okay, so we're all set up, and I did want to add that this is a little bit of a primitive way to do this. I've got a better way to do it, and there are parts on the way for that. So I'll be able to do it with strictly disconnects and not just hoses on barbs and end stoppers and things like that. So what the idea is we're going to fill from the bottom of the keg, which is why we're going in the beverage out, because that's attached to our dip tube down at the bottom. And then what's going to be pushed out is the CO2 that's in here up into the top of here, and it'll fill this headspace with CO2 rather than oxygen following the beer in. So we're not going to be filling this with oxygen and beer. It should be, for the most part, just CO2 on top of beer. So anyway, I'm going to attach my out and open the valve here. And actually I'm going to attach the in first, because this valve will start spraying out if it has nowhere to go. So there's that and that. And it should start to flow. So now we've got liquid flowing in down here, and it's pushing out gas through here back into the top of here. So this should be mostly CO2. In the future, this will be a ball lock disconnect on a carbonation cap, and it will be a sealed connection. So anyway, we'll let that run for a while, and that's about it. So I'm going to fill this completely. Thanks for watching, and on the next video we'll talk about carbonating your keg. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are express carbonating our IPA that we just packaged last week on last week's video, and so I'm going to show you how to do that. And I can't take credit for this method. I learned this, as many have, from the viral Homebrew for Life video on how to shake your keg and express carbonate. So I'm just going to reiterate what they are teaching. So anyway, we're going to attach our gas, and I've got the gas turned off. And I should add that my hose is too short, so if you have a longer gas hose, that would be beneficial. Okay, now I'm going to turn it on and turn the pressure up to 25 psi. Actually, we're going to go higher and go to 30. And one more thing I wanted to add, if you don't have enough gas line to have your CO2 bottle standing up, if you don't have enough gas length on your line for your bottle to stand up or someone to hold it, you just want to prop it up as long as it's not facing down to where we've got liquid CO2 running into our hose. So just want to keep that propped up a little bit. Okay, at this point, we're going to turn the keg on its side. I can see that's going to slip. And we're going to rock it just about a quarter turn back and forth for 250 turns. So we're just going to count to 250. 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And what we're doing is we're just trying to get our beer to absorb CO2 in solution. So I'm just going to do that, and we'll see you in a couple minutes. Okay, 250. And now all we got to do is disconnect our gas. We'll go stick this in the keezer and then get our gas set to the appropriate pressure for overnight. Now we're just going to stick it into our keezer. And this is going to accomplish two different things. We're going to cold crash the beer as well as carbonate overnight and get it to serving temperature. Finally, I'm going to connect our gas back up, and I wanted to mention one thing I noticed is I have a small chip missing out of my gas in O-ring on the keg. Just a little divot there. And that's important to note. If you've got something like that going on, now is a good time to replace your O-ring. I don't have any here, but I'm going to get that replaced before too much longer, or else you'll wake up and your gas will be gone the next day. So connect that. Keep in mind that we set the gauge up to 30, and when you're setting your regulator, when you back it off, the needle will not drop. When you crank it up, it will go up, but since we're already at the max, I have no clue what pressure I'm at. So the way I do it is we know it's at 30, so we're going to crank it way down, because we're shooting for about 10 or 12 psi. So I'm going to crank it way off and then open my pressure release valve here. Kind of see where it ends up. There goes some of our star sand off the top. And as that's backing down, I'm going to release this knob even further. You see I can release it now and nothing happens. But if I do that while I'm pulling the pressure release valve, we can set it right where we want it. I'll go a little bit past, and now bring it right back up to 12. And we're just going to let it sit there overnight and cold crash, and we should have a perfect pour tomorrow. So we'll actually see you on next week's video with your line length, calculating that, and our first pour.